Uh, we are recording this session, and this is the Retreat Center Collaborative Community Call. Today, we're gathered here to talk about racial healing. I am one of your co-facilitators here today, and Rachel is our other co-facilitator. First, just maybe even just take a breath and breathe in, embrace the noise or silence, the room that you're in. Kind of settle yourself to be here in this moment. And just feel that energy that you have. And then we're going to start off this racial healing piece with a bit of music and recognizing a big piece around racial healing is just naming it. And I thought this would just be a great way to recapture and put us back into an understanding around racial healing with this song, which many of you may know it as Say Their Name, but it's also titled Hell You Tell Them About. Hell You Tell Them About. So how about we play the video?
Clap your hands, please.
One thing to recognize in this video was this was done back in the summer of 2020. And I sat with just yesterday in my own moment of saying a name and even a moment of grief of just saying the name Amir Locke. Amir Locke. And how there is so much in naming it, but there is still so much more we have in the healing of it. So we have in our group a few that we would love for you to just take a moment, tell us your name and your center. And then our question is, what brought you here today? And I'll invite anyone that wants to open.
I'll start. Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel, she and they pronouns, calling from Massachusetts land, Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I'm here today as Arleen's co-facilitator as part of the Racial Healing Initiative. And I'm also here today because for me, retreat centers have been spaces of healing and transformation. And I believe really strongly in creating the space for them to continue to be and to broaden the ways that they are able to be. And I'm going to pass it to Sally.
Thanks, Rachel. I'm Sally Hare. I'm here as part of the Kirkridge team. And I'm here because I know that racial healing is my work to do. And I know I can't do it without each and all of you. And I'm going to pass this to Bernadette.
Hi, I'm Bernadette Rudolph. I'm the program director at Cranley's Spiritual Center in Philadelphia. Cranley's been working really hard to continue to address racism. We are founded by the Mercy Sisters, and one of their 5 critical concerns is racism. So we've been doing a lot of programming in this direction intensively since I came on board, at least. That's what I know about in the last couple of years. And certainly it's been going on a lot longer than that. But I'm always trying to learn about this, both professionally and personally. I realize how much I have to learn and to grow into. So that's why I'm here today. And I'm going to call on Dr. Myra Miller.
Hello, everyone. I'm the founder and program director for the Nature Studies Conservatory. And I'm here really to be a part of this work. I have been involved with RCC over the past year, and I've found that it is a beautiful space to grow and develop and build community together. So I'm here in that intention and space of also acknowledging my ancestors and all of the descendants that are here today, and really for all of us to have that depth work of healing so that our future generations can truly experience something different where there's balance and wholeness and oneness.
We're going to invite someone else to come in.
Thanks, Arleen. My name's Justine. I wear two hats, RCC Project Liaison and Kirkridge Retreat and Study Center, and I'm interested in continuing the journey of understanding how my story and the collective story intertwine in anti-racism work. And I'll call on Yolanda.
Yolanda, we can't hear you if you're talking.
Yolanda, you want to just put yours in the chat and we invite someone else to speak?
I'll go next. My name is Marissa, she or they pronouns, and I'm I guess representing Kirkridge today and myself, and I am here because I'm trying to get free, and that involves everybody. None of us can be free until we're all free. I'm interested in that and finding a way to do that.
Continue the invitation. Larissa, you mind?
Oh, sorry. I will tag Jean Richardson.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jean, and I'm also on the Kirkridge team. And I'm here today because when I was pretty young, I realized that what I was being taught in schools was not how the world was. And I've committed to that lesson my whole life around racial equality and equity. And I know it's a lifelong journey till the day I die. And I will call on Maureen.
Maureen Connors, and I'm in representing the Franciscan Center in Tampa, Florida. I have been continuing this journey of learning for myself, and I keep asking two questions. How can I keep learning? And also, is there things that are mine to do right now? I would call on Victoria.
Thank you, Maureen. My name is Victoria Santos. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm calling from the land of the Mohawk in the Iroquois. And I am the director for the Racial Healing Initiative. And I am just happy to be here to support the team and also to share what I can of my own journey as I try to loosen the grip of racialized trauma and racialized being in this society. Thank you. I am going to pass it on to Larissa.
Thank you so much, Victoria. My name is Larissa. I'm here on behalf of what's emerging here. I am on the lands of the Whidbey Institute, so all the plant relatives here greet you as well. I'm also here with my sister Marta, also part of the Whidbey Institute. These are the original and ancestral lands of the Tulalip, Swinomish, and Lower Skagit people, and we're gathered here today, a small group of us, in connection to the Boarding School Healing Coalition. So this is such a time I had to break away for this Zoom, and everyone understands why I'm here with you, just to build a bridge. And as to the invitation to offer up a question that brings me here, the question in my heart was really juiced up by the video that I I don't know you yet. I think your name is Arleen. Yeah, I wonder, I felt such power. It was such a blessing to be in the presence of that power. And my question is, what might be possible? What creative power might be available to us if we can turn toward and embrace the rage and the grief, for what we want to do, what I'm hearing people say we want to do, and lift up what is possible if we could turn toward and embrace rage and grief. And I would like to call on, is it pronounced Jenning Wu?
Thank you, Larissa. Yes, it is. Thank you for that heart-opening share. I'm Jining Wu. I'm up in Northern California, north of San Francisco, in a small town called Windsor. I'm currently a free agent doing strategy change work in social transformation. And what brings me to this is one, my tribe that is here to do this work together and to figure out a new path through the grief and the rage into healing and wholeness, for whatever that means for each of us individually. And I will pass it to Ken.
Thank you so much. My name is Ken Libby. I'm with the Children's Defense Fund at the Alex Haley Farm in East Tennessee. We have been doing the work to empower African American communities for 30 years now. And before that, Alex Haley owned the property and was writing out his oral history of his family here on this property. The question we come back to is how can we get reopened? How can we reopen ourselves to welcoming in groups and welcoming in people who want to take the time to center on themselves, rebuild their spirits, and prepare themselves for the work ahead. And I'd like to hand it off to Mary Trainer.
Mary.
If you'll unmute yourself, Mary.
Thank you. I'm Mary Trainer, and I'm here because of my own desire to be part of ongoing healing in the terrible rifts around us, and also in my own self and in the conversion process. 50 years ago, I taught in an inner city in Philadelphia in a very racially mixed group around 1968, when Martin Luther King was murdered and the rage was so high. And it's just so hard for me 50 years later to see how on the edge of it we all are, still on the edge of so much. I connect to Cranleys because I'm on their board, and I'm also a member of the Sisters of Mercy and have worked with and been in support of our own commitment to identify institutional racism among us and in our institutions, and to work to open our eyes and our hearts to how we participate in this systemic racism.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you. I think I still want to keep the invitation open.
Oh, who didn't speak?
How about, I've been keeping track. So how about Marta?
Thank you. I'm Marta, pronouns she and her. I'm representing the Whidbey Institute. And as Larissa said, we're on on Coast Salish People's Lands, Whidbey Institute in Washington State. And we just had a deep searching purpose session to redefine our purpose, which is now to be a place for those called by the responsibility and transformative potentials of our times. And if we're truly going to be that place, we have so much work to do. I'm here on our behalf and also on my own personal behalf for my family. I'm raising a white son and my ancestors to learn and to be on this journey the best I can be, this lifelong journey. And I'm going to pass it to, I know you just listed Arleen, who's here, Jennifer.
You're muted.
I can unmute you, Jennifer. Let me.
Those, I
got it.
Got it.
Got me now. Thank you all. I'm Jennifer Stoll, and I'm the director of the Retreat Center here at Commonweal and on the steering committee of the Retreat Center Collective. And we are situated on coastal Miwok land in the Point Reyes National Seashore. And I am so grateful to see so many people on this call and so grateful it's happening. I also feel this racial healing work is very much mine to do for a lifetime and into the next lifetimes, likely. And I'm particularly touched and moved to say today that I am bringing my ancestors in as well, feeling so strongly that, of course, this work we do helps. We hope to heal the present and the future, but it also works backwards on the spirits of our ancestors. And it's part of the reason I feel so glad to be here today with all of you. Thank you.
Jennifer, we just have a few more folks, and so I'll just invite Paul.
Paul Mock, Lindenwood Retreat and Conference Center. I'm Ministry of the Poor Handmaids of Jesus Christ. I came because I got an invite yesterday on an email from Ben, and I liked the topic, and it wasn't to have anything to do with my boss being one of the facilitators. I didn't even know she was. So Ben, you can wake up and be the next.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. My name is Ben Scott Brandt. I use he, him pronouns. I'm here in West Michigan, ancient lands of the Anishinaabe people up until just 150 years ago or so. Very tender hearing some of these shares. Some of that heart opening was certainly happening for me during the video. Feel a lot of tears right on the edge. So just grateful to be here to process that with you.
I'm also going to read Yolanda's out loud, which is in the chat. Yolanda says, hello all, my name is Yolanda Ramirez, calling in from Dominican Center, Marywood at Aquinas in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I am happy to be with you all. I am here because it is important to learn and recognize the history and the patterns that have made things what they are today. Our centers are a place of healing and transformation, and I feel in my heart that difficult conversations are critical to help heal generational trauma, to find freedom in healing and forgiveness. Thank you. And thank you all so much. I also am feeling very grateful for these shares and grateful, even though many of us have been in community with each other for a while, to take the time to hear from everybody about specifically why you're showing up for this conversation and this series, what will end up being a series of conversations facilitated by us and our colleagues in the Racial Healing Initiative. So I quickly just want to, before I turn it back over to Arleen, I'm going to ask Ben to just share that slide real quick so that we can give you a little map of where we're headed in the rest of our time today. We did a little bit of grounding in why we're here, sharing that video. We're finishing up welcome and introductions. We're going to move into a piece where we'll kind of dig into what do we even mean by racial healing, and spend a little bit of time there in a full group and in small groups. We'll take a break. And then the second half of the session will be in small groups and really sharing stories. We'll do a practice called story circles, where you'll be able to share and receive stories about all of your relationship to these conversation topics. And then we'll bring all of that back together and see where we go. And we'll close in about an hour and a half. Sound good? You're at the right thing. Sounds like you're all at the right thing. Great. I'm gonna pass it back to Arleen.
All right. And so if you want to put up the next slide, part of the work of the Racial Healing Initiative is supported through funding from the W.K. Kellogg Foundation and from Fetzer Institute to really support how we can work very collaboratively with retreat centers across the U.S. and hopefully abroad to really dig deep into racial healing and what does that look like at a retreat center, with the staff at retreat centers, with potential participants and retreatants that may come to a particular retreat center. And part of Kellogg's work began in January, where they did some initial kind of trainings and information that they provided out around racial healing. And so this was kind of some of the basic definitions that Kellogg put together, talking about what is racial healing. Again, you can read kind of what's there, but it really looks at it from it being relationship building. It's around truth telling. It's looking at racial equity. It has healing in it. It is us building solidarity. It's transformative action is what racial healing really, really is about. And so much of the work of racial healing, it begins right here with all of us. It's each individual, it's each group, it's each community that participates in moving us toward this transformative action for racial healing. I'm gonna do the next slide. So the question becomes, how are you charting a path at your retreat center? And why do you think racial healing matters? Kellogg says it affirms an inherent value of all people and organizations and community. It's around cultivating a culture of belonging that advances racial equity and inclusion, deepening our understanding of the differences and opportunities, burdens, and needs that exist related to how people racially and ethically identify. It matters because it restores individuals to wholeness. People get to share their stories. You get to learn. You get to be a part of these very difficult conversations. And those conversations could engage in conflict. They could be very much rooted in biases and unconscious biases. Racial healing matters because it supports relationship building, the trust, the authenticity. It's the repairing of damage, and it builds community. So we're going to go into some groups and take with us these kind of definitions around racial healing and why it matters. But the question is, how is racial healing mattering to you and to your center? And just take some time in the groups. I think we have about, how many minutes?
Let's do about 10 minutes.
Okay. 10 minutes for
A
folks?
juicy 10 minutes.
Okay, okay. About 10 minutes to kind of dig a little deep in some of those questions. Again, around racial healing. Why does it matter to you? You know, why does it matter to your center? And just take a step to go deeper. And then also the slides for the presentation are in the chat. So you do have access to the slides that we're presenting today. Okay. All right, Ben, are we ready for groups? Okay.
We're right on the edge. Just one more second here to finalize.
Larissa, we had a whole conversation around the slides earlier when we were talking. So yeah, they're great.
Yes. Oh, and someone dropped and is coming back in, so I'll just put her in the room as well.
I'll just say that the two slides we just looked at are slides 5 and 6, if you want to refer to them while we're stalling until we get into small.
Yeah, well, if there's pairs, I don't want people to be alone.
You can do a 3 if you want.
Okay.
That's totally fine.
Okay, let me move someone here then. This might work better. Okay, I think we're ready. Here we go.
All right. We'll see you in a little bit.
Okay, I did not place you in rooms. I will pause the
Great.
recording.
Welcome back.
Hey, host peoples. Thank you.
Welcome, welcome.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Hey, Ben, can we go back?
I know, right?
We're having such a good time.
We were rocking and rolling in breakout room.
Oh,
one.
yeah,
Yes,
we were.
Right on.
Like,
Good.
she left and I said, we have 46 more seconds.
Don't go.
I got excited. I got
I hate when
excited.
it happens. You like go to X out of the little window and instead you end up clicking the go back to the main room button.
It's okay.
Oh, good. Jean, it's nice to see you. It's been a while.
Nice to see you, Rachel. How are you?
Doing great. Yeah.
Good. How was that snowstorm up in Boston?
Ugh. Snow and sleet and hail and all of the things. Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back. Welcome back. So good to see faces. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Thank you, Arleen.
So how about we just take a good deep breath in and exhale out. And tell us some of your highlights of the conversation or some insights around racial healing and why is it mattering? I'd love to just get a few opportunities to hear more. I know you all had some juicy stuff going on in those conversations.
I'll share, Arleen. I was so blessed to have Maureen. We haven't seen each other for a while, and in just riffing together, I was talking about the biology of healing, and my young son who cut his knee open, and that because, and we talk about healing that you have to go through the pain. You can't go around it, you can't avoid it. And it's really funny that knee became such a wonderful metaphor because he was so afraid of the pain and he wouldn't let me take care of it properly. So there was still dirt and dead skin that then got covered over the flap. And so he has this scar, and realizing that in order to properly mend that wound was to actually have to feel that pain of cleaning it and getting the dirt out, and then just putting the what do you call it, medicine on, and then the Band-Aid. Anyway, so he's got a nice little scar from that. But it was just metaphorically appropriate, or analogy to racial healing, that we can't bypass it, and it's holding that healing together. And sometimes when we do clean his wounds properly, it's with a lot of hand holding and hugging, and his brother will come and distract him so that we can. So again, I could go on with the metaphor, but that was just a really cool insight of thinking about how the human biology heals and what that can help teach us in our spiritual healing.
Thank you.
I'll go next, Arleen. It's Jennifer. Very moving conversation with Sally Hare, and discussing intergenerational racial healing work and some origins of the retreat center she's working with at Kirkridge, she and Jean, and the power of the potential for healing in this work is so great. I, who am working with Resma Menaken's organization on a series of retreats coming up this year, the generosity of the offering to all of us, all races, all colors, is so great right now, including this racial healing work with our RCC, that I just want to say a collective thank you deeply. And I want to say that now because sadly I have to leave early for another mini emergency here at Commonweal to take care of. And I will look forward deeply to connecting on the next racial healing gatherings. I'm just so grateful to have been here this morning and seen all of you so far. Sorry to leave, sending love and huge blessings and gratitude.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, and you, Arleen, and all.
Should I offer a little tidbit from our room?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jean, my partner there. I think one of the things we experienced in that room, and seems important to name for this, is the power of walking together. Being together, living together, learning together. If we won't do the work of healing, we can't really be together. I don't want to be together. Oh my God, these past 3 years have just reminded me how much I want to be and belong together. Yeah, one step at a time is what I heard my partner say, and I'm grateful to be walking with you all here today. And thank you for those who paved the path. I also must leave a little early. But I just want to say that the path, a path I like to follow is whatever Victoria Santos is laying down. You know, when Victoria says, come, I come. And I'm honored, never disappointed to show up when you call, Victoria. Thank you.
Insight.
Well, I'll echo that. And also say, I just really, it always amazes me how a short time with somebody I haven't met in person can just go deep and so powerful. I just so appreciate the conversation with Marissa. I felt a lot of resonance between our retreat centers, and I feel like deep conversation and also some action steps I can take immediately for our team and what we're working on. So I know that's a little obscure, but I'm just really grateful for this opportunity. Thank you. And thank you, Arleen.
Thanks. I love the thoughts around action steps. Like when there is that immediate moment, of knowing it and knowing like I can leave here with this. Okay, that there's so much power in that. Any other?
Can everybody hear me okay?
We can now.
Yeah. Oh, yay. No, I just wanted to share that in our group, we had a conversation about what those possible steps, you know, to moving into that action would be. And I think part of what I might have mentioned was the importance of creating a safe space for that difficult conversation. You know, how do you bring about this container, and how can you contain it there before, you know, so that it is something that people can do that work. One of the other pieces that I mentioned was the importance of, you know, being able to look back to what happened and knowing the history. But I think the real work is in looking inward. And I can speak, you know, from being a person of color, being a Latina in the country, but I also have to also take the accountability of knowing where some of my origin is from, and the Spaniard and the conquest and the treatment of indigenous people, you know, whether it wasn't something that I might have done directly, how do you carry that with you, you know, without turning it into guilt? You know, how can you speak of your struggles as a Latina, but not acknowledge the colorism that exists within the Latin American countries? So it was just a conversation about kind of touching back to what was originally said, healing that wound, or catering or tending to it. But to do that work first before you can even have a container in which you can actually freely speak on it.
Thank you, Yolanda. And in the room. Mary, did you want to?
Yes, in my small group with Ken, such an awakening for me. Here Ken is talking about the freedom school that's been around since 1968, when I'm talking about being out there alone, trying to know what to do to help heal, help have dialogue, help have respect and dignity. And here's a spring off from a good close colleague of Martin Luther King starts his freedom school, and all these 50 years never knew about that. And that to me is the beauty of this collaborative, that we begin to discover that in our sometimes powerlessness as we're trying to find our way, there's someone else who's walked ahead and has discovered things, and from them we mutually can grow. That was just huge for me. And then the confirmation that in the process of healing, space in nature and beauty, a place that where the healing can be happening because you're out of the fray, is one of the essentials that we've discovered here at Cranleaf, and Ken was reinforcing that, and I felt hope that we are not alone here, and just totally powerless before something so much bigger than any of us can begin to grasp to how to heal it.
Appreciate that so much, Mary. Well, I'm going to close this portion and invitation. And we are actually we're at the half hour, so kind of jump into a small break. That way folks maybe step away, take another breather. And then how many minutes are we doing on our break?
We'll come back at 10 after the hour, so it'll be 9 minutes of a break.
9 minutes, 9 minutes. All right, so we'll see you all in 9 minutes. Thank you so much.
Oh, nice. Hey. And the second offering of a prompt, which transparently I rewrote as you all were talking in the first half of the conversation, is to tell a story of a time you experienced, witnessed, or participated in racial healing happening in your own life experience or at your center. And this isn't an invitation to tell a story of a perfect thing happening, but just as we're beginning to listen in together to what racial healing is and what it means, a story that you want to tell about something that kind of helped you to taste what that is, what that looks like. So you can pick one of those. And Ben, can you share the next slide? These are just some offerings of how this practice can work well on Zoom. So sharing a 3-minute story in response to any of the prompts. Listening is as important as speaking. So you have 2 roles to play, one when you're telling the story and one when you're not, when you're listening to a story, when you're receiving a story. Give full attention to the speaker and don't worry about your story. Trust that it will arise. I find it's really helpful to decide the order at the beginning so that you don't have to, every time, kind of figure out who's going next. Although when it comes to you, if you're not ready, you can pass. And that this is not a time for kind of crosstalk, criticism, correction. Oh, that reminds me of this one time that this happened to me, but really just receiving what the sharer wants to share. And when you come to the end of each one, thank the teller, take a breath, and then you can move into the next one. And we'll have about 20 minutes in these groups, with a group of 4 telling 3-minute stories. So if you find that you're at the end and you still have time left, there's some prompt questions here to kind of talk about together about what might have been revealed by the stories, whether there are any common themes or differences, what stood out for you, what touched you, what feelings and ideas were sparked. Those are the same questions that I'll offer when we come back together as a group. And yeah, this is slides 9 and 10 in the slides that I shared. So I think that's all I want to say. Any questions? Does this feel clear? Awesome. Seeing nods and no questions. I think Ben is ready to go. And you'll be in groups of 3 or 4, and we'll see you in about 20 minutes. Have fun. Welcome back.
Hello and welcome back.
Back, everyone.
Yeah, I don't know if you caught me there at the end, Paul, but I think we just need to repeat the stories, and that's where we can continue to go.
Welcome back, everybody. Hope those were rich story sharing. We're gonna just invite folks to kind of enter back into the full group space, taking with you what was shared. And as we move into sharing, just want to share one important thing, one important kind of boundary, which is just that the stories that were shared in your group, we would ask for you to hold as confidential. So as we move into sharing as a full group, please share kind of like what was revealed to you by the stories, what was sparked for you, what kinds of themes surfaced, but would ask that you not share details from someone else's story. can share your own if you like, but not from someone else's. To invite you to take a look at these faces on the screen, the ones that you can see. Take a little scan and notice maybe what's new after having shared stories together about what you see. And then as you take in the specific faces, let your gaze kind of widen a little bit to take in all of us, all the faces on the screen, and the collective that we are, and the space that's between us. That space that is between us being where what's emerges from that space in between us. And Ben, I'll ask you if you can just share that slide that has a bunch of questions on it. So we'll just spend the rest of the time hearing about what happened. There's a whole bunch of questions on here. What was revealed by the stories, common themes, notable differences, what stood out for you, what touched you, what feelings and ideas were sparked. So anything you want to share about the actual experience of hearing the stories. And then also this question of what does this mean for our racial healing work at retreat centers? So how are you making meaning of it in the context of the work that we're doing together? Yeah. So invitation to anyone who would like to share what happened. Another minute. See if there's anybody who wants to share, and then I'll ask maybe if someone from each group could share something. Maybe somebody from Ken, Marissa, and Paul's group.
Sure, thanks, Rachel. So in our group, one of the terms that came forward for me was power dynamics, a story that Marissa was telling about a work setting, 3 people in the work setting, the power dynamics that happened there. And each of us in our stories noticed the power dynamics that were going on, and how we had to call into question that the power dynamics were creating some deprivation for the organization, or something that was not going to work well enough if we allow those power dynamics to continue. So we each confronted power dynamics. And then Paul had said simply telling the stories is a way of reaching for the beginnings of social healing on an individual level, and cited back the instructions that we had about letting the stories just come up. If the stories simply come up, they will be the right stories, because they will be something that all of us can find commonality in, and then we can see that new questions are arising for each of us, and we can reach for individual personal healing.
Oh, thank you. Anybody from Bernadette, Myra, Janine, and Yolanda's group?
Sure. I'll go. So we had a conversation, really just talked about being self-aware and recognizing where it was more or less how we're very quick to recognize when racism or discrimination when we're on the receiving end, and maybe not as much when we're the ones passing it along. So it's just about sometimes you're almost I can speak for myself and say you think you're in a situation where you see it and you can step up and call it out, but oftentimes you're so taken back and surprised and almost in shock that you just heard what you just heard, that you're processing and you don't always move forward. So it was, I think that was just kind of the theme about recognizing and learning to spot it in both avenues.
Anybody else in that group want to add anything? Right. Jean, Marta, Marina, and Sally. What do you want to share?
I'll just say one thing that struck me, this overarching feeling as each of us was speaking, is just how many stories in one life, in collective spaces, we have microaggressions, macroaggressions, things that we felt in our bodies. Just the vastness and how powerful the story sharing is, and how it doesn't matter what age we are, we all have those stories.
I keep remembering a quote, I don't have it quite right, but in The Fox and the Weasel, stories have a way of taking care of us. We need them sometimes more than food in order to live. And that's the way I felt with my threesome.
Beautiful. Yeah, both of those last shares really just like landing in the piece about the feeling of how many stories you have. And I think I often have the feeling in this practice of like, I share the story that I can share, but behind me, there are hundreds of other stories of people that I've been in relationship that I'm bringing with me into that space. And so even just in a group of 3 or a group of 4, bringing hundreds and thousands of stories, and how much there is to draw from those. Yeah. Curious if anybody has thoughts about this last question. Like, what does it mean? What does this mean for our racial healing work at retreat centers? What's it making you think about? What is emerging?
Stories can be transformative, and I think there's an importance that was highlighted, which was sometimes it's more important to listen than it is to share it, but sharing is also liberating.
Share. You cut out a little. I think you said sharing is also liberating. Yeah. Bernadette, go ahead.
You know, at Cranleith, we've a famous saying from one of the wise women on staff: "What is ours to do?" You know, and right. So we're in Philly. There have been marches. There have been all kinds of social action. There's even been lots of prayer, you know, at churches and synagogues and mosques and whatnot. But to be a place where people can come and be still so that they can listen to their own stories. One thing that was hard for me about this process was I was asked to think of a story really fast and do it really fast. And although you say, oh, trust that it's the right thing that will arise, it's like, yeah, but my brain, I need the time, because there is that whole lifetime of stories, right, to pick from. And what is it that's been happening lately to me that I need to listen to? Because life is going so fast. And then to be able to sit with that story, share that story, wrestle with that story, and hear the stories of others, so that respectful dialogue and healing can happen. And that to me is really where we've been moving, and the direction I'd like to continue to move is that being, Yolanda used the word earlier, and we use it all the time, being a container for that storytelling, for that listening, for that growing awareness, because there's just so much awareness, I think, that we all need in terms of how things are landing for other people and how we can be respectful in the moments of life.
This is Marta. I'd say for our center, I'm realizing that the easier thing to do is to look to the outside, to bring a facilitator in, bring a trainer in, go to trainings, which are all valuable. But we have everything we need to start the work and dive deeply, is our stories. We share stories, we do a lot of check-ins, we share stories around our people context, but not specifically on racial healing and how powerful to you know, we don't need any budget for that. We just need ourselves to come together and listen and share. And I feel like from there, the work will show us the next step. It'll show us the next step.
Love that. And how beautiful to have this community as a place then where, as you're doing that sharing in your own centers, you can then bring some of what's emerging that you're wrestling with, and deepen even further with other folks. Yeah. Headed toward the end of our time.
I want to put in an extra plug for RCC, in that there have been times in me doing some dialogues and discussion around race, and being able to reach out to folks here, which prime example, I reached out and Justine just had no idea. She knew there was an issue that we were dealing with and challenged with, but she showed up and was present there to be a part of this dialogue and conversation of a racial issue that we were having at our campus. There was so much power in that for me, in creating a space for healing, creating a space for more dialogue to happen. And so I just have to put in this plug for RCC, that there are these people and individuals there who can help carry part of the story around healing, that if when you're going down that road at your center, you've got this amazing collective to support you. So
Yes, yes, yes. We have time for maybe one or two more people. So if you're sitting on something that feels important, just pull it out from underneath you and share it with us.
I just want to say this piece of what Yolanda said about sharing is also liberatory. It's so key because sometimes we're waiting for just the right words, for just the right condition in order to be able to speak. And, you know, some of us are verbal processors. And so to just have a container of people who are listening, there's things that I might be able to articulate them and be able, places I might be able to get to that I wouldn't be able to get to by myself. And so I just really am grateful for you, Rachel, and for Arleen for saying, let's start with a story circle. Let's start with listening. So I feel very touched with the conversation. Thank you.
I'm also aware that our center has been in for 52 years, has mostly attracted Caucasian people over the years. And I understand more and more why, but it might be small incremental steps that's going to change that, not some big, it might be just because the Zoom world has opened up more of an audience to us and other things like that. But I have to keep realizing it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah. And that we're never alone in doing that work. Great. I'm gonna invite us to come to a close. We don't have time to do a full closing go around, but I will invite you into the chat. And I'm gonna ask 2 questions that you can answer with 1 or 2 words. The first question is, I came here to this time together feeling, fill in the blank. Just drop a word or 2 in the chat. I came here to this meeting feeling blank. Feeling curious, tentative, complicated, brief, anticipatory, worried about other work, unfocused, interested. Great. Ready to move. Heavy, unsure, pulled in several directions. You knew where this was going. So I'll now invite you. The second question is, I'm leaving here feeling, fill in the blank. Filled, connected, thankful, restored, and realizing this was my work for today. Quiet, focused, present, reflective, heard, learning and living, challenged with a community behind me, knowing where I can turn for sharing, deep grief and hope. Beautiful. Thank you so much, friends, for being with us today. We're really grateful to be able to say that this is just the beginning. We, not exactly Arleen and I necessarily, but perhaps some other faces that you see on your screen today, maybe offering future sessions from the Racial Healing Initiative, and just grateful to be on the journey with you. Invite you to come off mute and say goodbye to each other.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
See
Thank
y'all.
you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank
Thanks for being
you.
here.
Thank you, everybody on the committee.
Thank you so much. See you.
Thanks
Next
and
one is
goodbye.
March 22nd, another racial healing initiative call.
You, Ben.
Ben, was that March 2nd?
22nd.
22nd.
Yep, March 22nd, the second community call in March. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being
Here,
here.
Yolanda.
Up, everyone. Be well.
Thanks, Justine.
Ah, recording.